Welcome to the County Manager's Report. I'm Lloyd Higuera, and with me is Jim Nichols, Douglas County Manager. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you.
Good to have you here, and we're going to be talking about the December meetings of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. December 3rd and December 17 they met. And at that December 3rd meeting, commissioners were considering increasing the excise tax on motor vehicle fuel by 5 cents. And what did commissioners decide?
Well, the commission decided or voted 4-1 to support raising the excise tax for fuel. And so effective later this year, that 5-cent increase will go into effect. And then the intention is to use that for maintenance and some select capital projects that we'll be able to utilize it for. And it was a decision by the board that was based on the needs of the county and our transportation needs in particular, and we certainly appreciate their support.
Okay. Also, commissioners were considering another increase. That was a 0.25% increase in the sales tax, and how did that one go?
Well, that one we did not receive the same favorable results. It was interesting because for this particular tax, we actually needed a supermajority vote. Out of the 5 commissioners, we needed 4 affirmative, and unfortunately we only received 3. So though there was a majority of a 3-2 vote approving the tax, because it was not a supermajority, it inevitably failed.
Okay. Now these taxes, of course, were tied to the countywide connectivity program. There also was a utility tax included in that package, which wasn't even considered.
Right.
So what does the future of the countywide connectivity plan look like, with only passing one of the 3?
Well, basically, and that's a very good question, because our intention is to utilize the funds that we will have available to us through the gas tax for addressing the projects and the maintenance needs we're able to take care of. And one point I made with the board during this process was that there were no other hidden pots of money. So basically, we will be prioritizing the work we have and utilizing the additional funds we gain and maintaining our road system the best we can. Right now, we won't be able to accomplish all the things we had originally intended. That included some stormwater work, certainly a lot of safety projects and transportation enhancements, and those are just not feasible without the funds to assist. So we'll be moving forward with the connectivity projects that we're able to address with the funds available to us.
Okay. Well, also at that December 3rd meeting, commissioners decided to extend the temporary moratorium on solar photovoltaic facilities for an additional 180 days. So what's the latest update on all that?
Well, the extension is just based on the fact that we are still in an information gathering mode right now. As you recall, the original extension was for 180 days with the possibility of an additional 180, which is what we just went through. And it's been very successful so far, meaning that we've been able to gain a lot of information from the community, from affected interests, and just from people who care about how solar is integrated into Douglas County. But we're not done, and so that's why we needed the additional extension. We continue to outreach with the community and with different affected interests and special interest groups, and as we gain that information, our intention is to go back to the board with some revisions as to how and where solar projects are most appropriate, and we'll look for the board's approval or consideration when we come forward to them.
Will an actual plan be crafted for solar in Douglas County?
It won't be so much a solar plan, because really that is a private enterprise, but it'll be more the boundaries and the considerations that are looked at when solar is proposed for use and implementation anywhere in Douglas County.
Okay. Well, also, commissioners rank the submitted grant proposals for the 2016 Federal Housing and Urban Development Community Block Grant Program. This comes up every year,
Right.
and Douglas County has been pretty fortunate with this
Yes.
program.
Yes.
Have quite a few grants.
Yes, we've been very lucky, and the way it ranked, or the way the board ranked the projects, we had our wastewater treatment plant was ranked first, but it was also noted by staff that it's a separate consideration, so it didn't necessarily overshadow the other projects being considered. And then after that, we had a project at the food closet, and then finally was an equipment purchase for the fire district.
Oh, okay. All right, well, let's hope we're lucky again this year.
Yes, hopefully.
Let's move on to the December 17th meeting of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. That was up at Lake Tahoe. And at that meeting, commissioners did hear a presentation on planning for potential river flooding by the East Fork Fire Protection District.
Right, and it was that was a lengthy meeting, I'll be honest, much longer than I'd anticipated. But there was a lot of good information on the agenda, including this report by Chief Carlini. And basically, they provided a lot of information and detail to the board regarding what the fire district is doing in regard to flooding. And you know, one of the key messages that came out of that is that it's not a matter of if, but when. The chief was very clear that we will flood again, and but it's a matter of the preparation that he and his staff are going through to make sure we're as ready as possible for the next flood event. And I think from the comments I heard from the board, they felt a greater sense of comfort and confidence because the chief has been doing such a good job, and his staff, in making sure that we are as prepared as possible.
Yeah, it's good to know that they're planning and preparing, and
Exactly.
and then when it comes time to implement, they're right there. That's
Right.
great. Well, also, commissioners did accept the comprehensive annual financial report for the last fiscal year. And what did that report show?
The CAFR, as it's referred to, is a review of the county's finances over the past year. And it really looks at how we've done business relative to accepted financial practices and just make sure that we're doing everything correctly. It did reveal, the report did reveal that there were still some findings, as we had last year. And findings are basically areas where improvement is needed. It's not saying we're doing something necessarily badly, and certainly not necessarily inappropriately, but that there's a better way to do it. And so the board made it very clear in their commentary that they want to see these issues addressed over the next year, and they do not want to see them repeated next year. So we'll be making a concerted effort to ensure that doesn't happen. One of the points that was made during the presentation is that many of the issues that were noted have been in place for decades, and so to change practices, break bad habits, and even institute new software and new ways of doing things does take time. But we recognize the board's concern, we share it, and we are going to do everything we can to make sure these issues are addressed.
Okay. Well, also, commissioners approved distribution of $155,804, which was budgeted for community grant awards. And commissioners did use a new procedure for deciding the grant awards this year. Mm-hmm. They went a lot quicker.
It did. And still possible improvements that can be made, but the big difference is that, you know, I was here last year for the prior grant awards, and that was early in my tenure. And it was likened to making sausage in public. So last year I had talked behind the scenes to the board about just trying something different, which they were okay with. So I'd had 2 board members volunteer at the time to help screen the applicants and the funding requests. So we did that behind the scenes, and the intention was for that to serve as a starting point for the board's discussion and debate. Last year, basically everyone and every request started at 0, and the board knew they had a pot of money, and it just took forever to come up with the distribution.
Sure.
This time, we basically gave them some suggestions, and then they debated and discussed, and as you noted, it went much quicker. We still may refine the process a bit. This was our first attempt at doing something outside the norm. And I think it worked well, but I think there's still things we can maybe do better, and we'll be looking at that over the next year so that next year we tweak it even a little bit more and maybe find ourselves even a bit more efficient in the process.
And maybe it'll go even quicker.
I can only hope, yes.
Okay. Commissioners also appointed a new public guardian for Douglas County. We discussed this previously.
Yes.
And so who is that person?
Well, we are happy and proud to have Nicole Thomas joining us on staff. I believe she'll be starting January 11th, if I'm not mistaken. Currently working for the state, comes to us with a great resume, great credentials, and a lot of fire and passion for what she does. And she's very excited, as are we. In particular, Claudette Springmeyer, who is the current public guardian, and who loves her job and certainly loves being a part of this county, but she's been wearing two hats for a long time.
Right,
and
as
the
public administrator, too.
administrator and guardian. And so now it's time to just only wear one hat, and she is probably the most excited to see Nicole joining us in the near future.
I can imagine. Well, that's great. Do you have any kind of a preview of any items coming up for January 2016?
Sure, yeah. Well, as we start the new year, a couple things we'll be looking at the first board meeting will be the appointments of the new chair and vice chair. That's something that the board does internally amongst themselves every January. Also, any of the appointed boards and commissions that have openings and vacancies, those will be filled at this next meeting. We'll also be talking to them about fuel indexing, which will be on the ballot in 2016 for voters' consideration. And we want to make sure that both the board and the public understand what indexing is and how it can affect the county and just what it means in general to everyone.
Okay, very good. Well, Jim, I want to thank you for all the information you've shared here on the County Manager's Report. That's what we do here. And for Jim Nichols, I'm Lloyd Higuera, and we'll see you next time on the County Manager's Report.